This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
BooBaes.
Hi,
Hello, and welcome to
BooBaes.
BooBaes. That's right. We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And today we are here to talk to you about
The Awakening. Dun,
The
dun,
Awakening.
dun,
2011,
British
requested
Supernatural.
by
sorry.
Jeff.
Jeff, yeah. Jeff is one of our super duper awesome listeners, and he wanted us to give this one a good watch, and it was quite a twisty journey.
It was. Yeah. I was like, what?
Kind of like
What is
the
going
others
on? Yeah,
when we watched
it
the other
was.
day.
I know. I was like, fuck, has she been dead this whole time too? Spoiler alert at the end.
That would be something.
I was like, damn, she's been dead this whole time. And then I was like, oh wait, no, she's not dead.
No, she's not.
Because I thought she was going to get murdered by her dad.
Right? When she was a child.
Yeah. Whenever they were replaying everything, and like then the little rabbit doll went off, I was like,
yeah,
God damn it. Now she's dead.
It was giving kind of time loopy a bit when she was there as an adult, but I guess in the place of herself as a child. Remembering everything and kind of walking through it. But yeah, it was especially the twist, like when like it gets stated from Robert when he's like, "There's no kids here; it's just us three," and she's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, no, I was like, "What do you mean, just us three? Tom's
like,
here."
And it does make sense because I guess Robert and Tom never really did quite interact.
Yeah.
But then also Tom was such a good little like. He also fooled us because he was acting like he was afraid of something, but it was him the whole time.
He was afraid of the murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a good little actor. I had a feeling he might have been dead just because he looked a little too perfect.
Mm-hmm.
He
compared
looked
to everyone else.
Yeah, very like his skin was like porcelain looking.
I guess did no other kids ever like even interacted with him now that I think about it, right?
Not really, no. Like
only
he's
Maud.
always like sitting in the back, and then Maud would interact with him, like laying in bed and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it was pretty wild.
I wonder if that's interesting. I wonder if the boys were paying attention to Neff. Like, was Maud just talking to nothing?
Yeah, and they're like, man, that lady's fucking crazy.
For real, because there were quite a few times where she's like, they're in front of everybody, like they're around everybody, and she's talking to him. Yeah, but this is directed by Nick Murphy.
Murphy.
Directorial debut. Let me see what else Nick's made. He's made a few things that I haven't heard about. Primeval, Occupation, television. Okay, so he's in television. It's more television. Got it.
Oh, cool.
Some television shows. Yeah, it's really cool. And he is the film stars Rebecca Hall. I've seen her. She's like in the King Kong movies, the new ones.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I know I've seen her in like maybe two other things before as well.
I didn't really recognize her. I only recognized Imelda Staunton as Dolores Umbridge.
Oh yeah, of course. And then
I was like, oh,
which one? The dude who played
and Dominic
Robert?
West. I recognize. He almost looks like a Mark Wahlberg type.
Yeah, or like to me, he almost gives like that dude that almost looks like the dude from Legolas, Katy Perry's husband,
Orlando Bloom.
The other one that looks kind of like him, adjacent. I don't know his name though, and he was like in The Hobbit, He played a dude in The Hobbit. But anyways, I'm gonna look it up.
Let's look up who Dominic West was in. What he was. Oh, not who he was in. LOL. Movies.
Okay, I'm thinking of Luke
Evans.
Evans.
He was in 300.
Look up Luke Evans and tell me he doesn't look like Dominic West. Like almost
and he was in Mona Lisa Smile.
I've never seen that.
And Chicago. 28 Days. He was in like a lot of... Oh, he was in Hannibal Rising.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. He was in all the Downton Abbeys too. And some of the Star Wars.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. There are big sirens going past. Who'd you say? Luke
Evans looks like
Evans.
Dominic West to me a bit, but that's all.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, pretty small cast other than like the kids that are there, you know, for a little bit, but then it just kind of focuses on Maud, Mrs. Carthart, Robert, Tom, and
I think it's Carthright.
Carthright.
Cathcart.
It's Cathcart. Cathcart.
I just called her Florence the whole time.
Florence, yes. And Mr. Judd, who unfortunately is
a piece of shit.
POS, literally. And yeah, we want to. Oh, it's a time period piece, I guess, right? We should say it was set in the 1920s.
Yes, in 1921.
Mm-hmm.
And we open up with some diegesis, and it says observation. Between 1914 and 1919, war and influenza have claimed more than 1 million lives in Britain alone. This is taken from Florence Cathcart's Seeing Through the Ghosts, page 7. Conclusion: this is a time for ghosts.
That's right to the point.
Yes, so it tells you that we're going to have some ghosties in this film.
And we open up in London, 1921, and it's a seance.
Yeah, and we've got some eerie, like childlike music too as we get the credits and the opening of Florence's eyes and the turning of a doorknob, and then then we're in that seance.
And everybody about, I don't know, 4 on both sides. We got the whole table full of people. They're trying to so what do you call a seancer? The lead seance person is trying to contact the spirit, I guess, of a child. The medium, thank you, of a child that, or I guess anybody really, right? Because they had a few different people in the room because they were like, someone lost a child or something like that.
Yeah, they were trying to. There were quite a few people, and they weren't sure who they were going to connect with. But then they do connect with a little girl, and this woman who was her mother, her candle blows out in front of her, and they're like, "Oh, is it your daughter?" Blah blah blah. And then she looks into, and they like sacrifice a crow.
Yeah,
and they're like a life for a life and stuff, and she looks into this like big looking glass thing,
and starts to see like the reflection of a little girl walking up. I couldn't tell if it was I think it was supposed to look like she was coming to and through it, but soon enough we realized that that's not the case.
Yeah, and we just see this little girl's hair get yanked. And all of a sudden she like snatches her weave off her head, and
sure does,
off his head. I think was
it's
it a little boy?
It was totally a little boy.
Yeah. And Miss Florence just starts debunking things left and right. She's like pulling off like the like string under the table that made the lady's candle go out, and like showing the blood packs that they used instead of actually sacrificing a crow and things like that, and just showing all of where they basically fucked up and made it very noticeable that they were crooks.
Scamming. Yeah. She calls them charlatans and bad ones at that.
Yeah, she says, you're all charlatans and poor ones at that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, damn.
She was like a boss. The way she knocked it all out, like in a matter of seconds. And the dude even tries to pretend like she gave him a heart attack or something, and then she pricks his finger.
Yeah, she just stabs it like under his little nail and stuff. And I was like,
she's like, I love how she was like, oh, look at that. Another miracle.
Yep. It was funny.
But basically, we learn real fast that Miss Florence has a reputation. She is an author, and she is a kind of famous ghost debunker, world renowned, like a ghostbuster almost.
Yeah, because as soon as like she started debunking things, the medium person or the guy who was kind of leading it all was like, Florence. And so he automatically knew who she was, and he was like, how dare you come in here and do this?
False pretenses.
Yeah.
And she's basically shutting the whole thing down. I think people are getting arrested, right? Because they're scamming? Or if not getting arrested, she just blows up the whole thing and they all leave.
Yeah. They were like clearing out the furniture and stuff and like putting it on the front stoop. And so I wasn't exactly sure what was happening. I was just like, oh, okay.
And then she's talking to her friend.
Yeah. And then she just gets slapped by that lady, the mom.
Who she presumably helped because she was getting scammed.
I know. I was like, I feel like I would be thankful if somebody exposed people faking like my daughter's death and like, you know.
I think she was that desperate for like a connection.
Exactly. And she just really, really wanted and needed to see her daughter.
And like
no matter if it was real or not. Because she asks Florence, you've clearly never, or states, like, you've clearly never had a child, have you? And she was like, no, I didn't think so.
Bitch move, though. It's kind of savage. Just came in I love how Florence had a really, like, good, shocked face. Like, just genuinely, like, what the fuck?
Excuse me, bitch?
Very speechless. And so we have then her going back home. She's at home, right? I think. And then that's when we have her kind of talking to the fam. Aw, kitties. Talking to the fam bam a little bit. And
say meow.
Then we have a knock at the door. Meow meow. Meow meow mix.
Say meow.
We have a little knock at the door, and it's Roberto.
Yes, and he is.
He is at the door, and she thinks that he's like just some like person who wants autograph from her book, and she's like totally like, basically like, you shouldn't have really come to my house for this, but here you go, and like, let's make this quick. Thank you. I'm glad.
Yeah, she just opens the door and is like, sees the book in hand and is like, okay.
Yeah.
Let me wham bam, thank you, ma'am, get this done and signed and get you out of here. Because she was like, you came to my house? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, very much like that. And so then he's like, well, I don't even want your autograph if you're going to treat strangers like this so rudely. I wasn't here for that at all. I actually don't even like your book.
Suki, stop.
He's like, it's trash.
Yeah.
But
he says one of the ladies at the school really likes it. And she
sent him.
Yeah, so much that she keeps it next to her Bible on the shelf.
And so he ends up telling her that he would like to basically hire her. He needs some help, essentially. Doesn't really give too much information at this point because we do get cut off by her mom, her adopted mom, who's like, she's actually not taking on any more work right now. but even though the dad is like, hold up, we got bills to pay. What you talking about? And so they kind of hear Robert out a little bit, but not too much, because then we cut to what's her face, Florence, kind of having a little bit of a moment with her mom, and her mom is like, me and your dad see the toll that this job takes on you every single time.
Yeah.
That you take on a new whatever client or debunking, and Florence is basically like, yeah, it's not really fair for me to do that to y'all and for y'all to see that me go through it. But basically, she's like, I'm still gonna take on this job and just deal with it, essentially.
Can you hear her purring?
Just a little bit, I think. We can kind of infer and assume that something traumatic happened for Florence, but they don't really mention it, and it's kind of just alluded to something, so we're just kind of like, oh, okay, something's there. And then
and she also, I loved the line earlier, whenever he was like, we have, like, are you a ghost hunter? And she goes, well, you can't hunt what doesn't exist. And I was like, oh, but I was like, but ghosts do exist. And he was like, well, that's just it, we think we have one that does.
Very much her curiosity, and also like the way we come to find out that she's really just trying to prove that there is some type of afterlife, essentially. Like, she wants to basically prove herself wrong. I feel like that's the whole thing.
And I was like, this bitch has definitely seen a ghost before. Like, she just is in denial.
And she ends up meeting with Mr. Robert the next day, and he's trying really hard to convince her, almost using like guilting like, what do you like methods, guilting her into doing it. Basically, I forget what he says. He strikes a nerve with her or something, using her book, her own words against her or something like that.
Yeah, I don't
recall. But he's just trying super hard, because she's like, you know what, no, I'm not really gonna do it. And then he does convince her, because we are then on the way to the school.
And we learn that like, as he's convincing her, we learn that a kid died 3 weeks ago, and like that a kid had died previously at the school, like, decades ago,
before it was a school.
While it was still just a home. And
he shows her the pictures of the boy in the photographs, and she's kind of like, this could be easily like doctor duped, it's an old trick. But he's like, okay, but explain why it's like in like 10 different years, and he's still the same age and size. And then also, how could he get from here to here? And then there's the last picture where he was inside the house.
He was like, sure, you can explain away running from one side of the thing to another in the 15 seconds it takes for the camera to sweep the group, but how would you explain him getting up here into the window and his face being twisted like that? And so that is basically, she's like, fine, I'll come to your school. And then it looks like the Hogwarts Express with that little choo-choo train.
And I'm thinking like, oh, cool, she's on the train. But
and then nope, they're in a car.
I had to delete that note. I was like, on the train on the way to school. And I'm like, nope, in the car with Mr. Judd and Robert. And Mr. Judd's already being Mr. Juddish. Talking to them in the car.
She just like
today
clawed my lap, and she like put her front paws into my leg and then hoisted herself up.
Jesus.
That was not pleasant feeling.
She's just a baby.
She is.
Look at her. She just wants to love you.
She does.
That's cute.
He's a little baby, huh?
That's a cat. The best in show. And so we get to the school, and she starts to whenever they're in the car, they almost hit a group of boys who are, I guess, in like PE or whatever the fuck they're running their mile, and they're just so like they just stand there like deer in
Yeah.
headlights until
And
Mr. Judd
so
revs up
Judd's
his
like,
engine.
and then they're like,
Yeah,
huh,
yeah, and
oh shit,
then
better go.
for real, and then we get to the house, and that's whenever Robert is. They're kind of she's getting on the grounds. All the boys are running around, and he's kind of explaining to her that Mrs. Maud is what's her name? What's her last name? Do you remember?
No,
She just
I called
wants
her
to be called
Maud.
Maud because she wants to be called Maud.
Was it not Mrs. Mills as well?
I think it was a Mills, yeah, Maud Mills,
Like from last
from
week.
the others, yeah.
From the others.
And he tells her like basically she's like she can be a little bit odd, I guess, and maybe that would be used to explain like if she's talking to herself or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
And
she's
she
the
is
one.
basically enamored meeting her. And we can later find out why she was so excited to meet her.
Yeah,
but
she's just giving off like super crazy fan right now.
Yeah, because she's like, I've read your book a dozen times, and I, I feel like I know you, and I've never met a famous person before. And Florence is like, well, I'm not really famous. I just wrote a book. And she was like, I beg to differ, kind of thing. And this is where we get again that she keeps the book next to her Bible. And I was like, so that must be held in high regard.
Yeah, very much so. And she tells her, she doesn't believe or fool around with ghost nonsense. I think she's just trying to tell her like she kind of believes the same what she believes. I don't know. And she tells her like she will be of service to her. So she's really like laying it on thick. She wants to be close to her. She's like, if you need me for anything, like you just let me know.
Call me, beat me if you want to reach me.
Very much that. She's her KP.
Yep.
Or no, who was her tech guy? Was his name Wade?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, her tech guy. But she ends up then going into the school and meeting the Reverend.
Yes, and we get some pretty graphic art on the walls too on the way up, and she like makes a point of, because Robert says John the Baptist, and she's like, no, it's actually Judas and this like woman kind of thing, and goes on. One of the fun facts is about this painting, so that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Mention it,
but but it's some pretty graphic artwork on the walls, like
for a school with kids.
Yeah, it's like a beheading or something.
Yeah,
and so it's a lot.
And she does make note of it, just like a lot of times actually she kind of looks at, and for reasons like we find out later, she remembers and recognizes the artwork that's on the wall throughout the house. We get to that Reverend, and he's like, oh, okay, you must be the ghost lady, and essentially charging her with fixing their problem, and either figuring out whether it is a ghost or figuring out what boys are up to mischief.
Yeah. And we get a comment here, as we do multiple times throughout the film, about her being an educated woman and like the problems that come with being an educated woman. As if women shouldn't have the ability to be educated. Yeah.
Multiple
At
times.
the end, there's a comment that's like,
it was really stupid.
Yeah, I wrote it down, so I'll quote it at the end. But I was like, God damn.
For real. And she was right there.
Yeah,
and
that's I know.
Right.
But then I was like, maybe did she die?
That's what I thought, like she was a ghost. But no, I think he was just that rude and oblivious to the fact that she was right there.
Because no one really interacts with her except for Mallory or Robert.
Robert,
and I refer to him as Mallory the whole time because she called him by his last name for most of it. And so, and then like whenever the like shower scene, the tub scene happens, and she's like, Robert, I know you're there. I was like, who the fuck is she talking to? Like, are you exposing yourself to a little kid right now? Like, what's going on?
And because you didn't remember his first name was Robert?
No, yeah, I only remembered it was Mallory.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what is going on? Like, that could be a little kid watching you. Like, cover yourself.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, like, that's probably not Robert. It's probably some kid, you know. But she was, yeah. There was a few moments, too, where I'm just like, girl, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But we go to the mess hall because the Reverend's going that way. And she takes her stuff and she can see, like, where all the kids eat and stuff. And we get there and immediately we see that there's like this bullying situation happening because whenever this one kid, Victor, goes to sit at the table, all the boys are like, oh, here he comes. And as soon as he sits down, they all get away and walk away, including
and then
Tom.
He just puts his little head in his hands and is like so upset. And I was like, oh, poor little kid.
Felt bad for him.
Yeah. And then, but she takes note, but doesn't like really do anything about the situation. Yeah. And they move along outside to where Walter's body was found. Or where, I think his body was found. And she's looking around, kind of observing, and she finds one of the little eyeballs for his teddy bear. And she was like, did Walter have a bear or anything like that he cherished? And they were like, oh yeah, we found his toy bear on his bed when he was dead.
Yes. And then that's whenever Wheezy, that's whenever they started to talk about did he have any like problems or whatever, because she was asking if he somehow it comes up that he had asthma.
Yeah, so they went into the bedroom and they looked at his bed and it had a big stain on it, and she goes, was he bullied? And Maud was like, well, yes, basically. It turns out if you have anything that makes you different from them, you will get bullied. And his was that he had asthma and he would wheeze. And
she also mentions that his bed is not the only one like that.
Yeah.
And they would call him Wheezy Walter.
Yeah.
Did we ever get a picture of Walter, by the way?
Or, I don't really think so.
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember ever seeing him really. But that's whenever we cut to, I guess it's either the next day, I don't know, but we're with the teacher. Malcolm? Is it Malcolm? What's his name?
Yes, Malcolm is his name.
And he's just coughing up a storm. Did he have like TB or something?
I was waiting for blood to show up in his napkin because I was thinking he had like tuberculosis or something, but it never really says. And so, he just coughs a lot. But then they're in class and she is coming in and meeting all of them. And she's asking if any of them had ever seen a ghost or the ghost in question. And the one boy raises his hand and he's like, yeah, I saw the ghost and its face was twisted.
Yeah. I didn't believe him at first because he was already painted as like a troublemaker. And so I was like, man, not the one boy who like already has problems and is probably creating stories for attention is the one who saw the ghost. But he did say it was like twisted, and the boy's face was twisted. So
it's probably legit.
Yeah. And then so she's asking him like, where and all that stuff. And then he basically just like goes off and is just like, please kill it, miss, kill it. And all the boys are like, yeah, kill it, kill the ghost. Which I'm like, how can you kill a ghost? But okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tom's even sitting in the class too, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he is. Yes. Yeah. So I was also too like still thinking like, oh, he's pretty real.
Yeah.
Unless I guess he was sitting where Walter's seat would have been, you know, since Walter was dead, and that would have left an open seat, maybe. And so all that's happening. And after talking to the boys, she starts to set up all of her like ghost instruments, and everything that's going to capture like whether or not, well, actually, no, not to capture ghosts, but to capture real people pretending to be ghosts.
Yeah. She's like, because they were like, oh, is this all your ghost hunting equipment? And she was like, she said, we're not here to catch ghosts. She's here to catch naughty boys up to mischief. And then this is where, and then like Mallory went off at some point too, whenever they found the little bear's eyeball, and he went off and had like a borderline seizure.
Oh yeah, I remember that part.
Sorts. And so you can like kind of infer that something's wrong with him, which like comes up whenever she starts watching Mallory through the hole in the wall, like she's about to do.
And we are, after setting up the instruments, she sees, or the boys are going to bed. It's nighttime. Everybody's getting ready for sleepies.
And Maud's off putting the boys to bed.
Talking to Tom, and he's basically like, is she gonna do what like they say that she can do? And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, get rid of the ghost or something like that. And
that's why he's afraid, because he's like, is she gonna get rid of me? I'm the ghost.
She says, she just is basically comforting him. And then yes, we cut to, it's kind of like everyone at night. It's kind of showing what everybody's doing, and Miss what's her face, Florence, is looking through the hole in the wall on it, which also to me is just like, this is so like, why do we have a hole in a children's boarding school in the wall? But anyways,
to the bathroom.
To the bathroom, yeah.
Yeah, it was problematic. I was like, no one thought to close this up.
Yeah, and so she's watching, though, of course, Mr. Mallory taking his bath, getting out of his bath, and we can see that on his leg. You tell me what it is. What was it? Like,
I don't know. It looked like he was stitching up something, like
it was an open wound. I don't know.
Or unstitching his leg, like he kind of dug at it. So I don't know if it's like some sort of like, just old wound that he keeps messing with. And I'm not sure. It was hard to tell because we were looking through a like peephole. So
yeah, it looked like also like though like something that was like growing on his body, if that makes sense. Not necessarily like a laceration, but I couldn't really tell. And she's just watching him. And then after that, she is, I think it's at this point, or she starts to hear that the thing where it's like, be quiet, or so help me, or something like that from her dad. I know we hear it like a few different times, like peppered throughout the movie. And like the most, just randomly, it happens. And we're like, okay, she's hearing this male's voice saying like, be quiet, or so help me, or I'll make you be quiet, or something like that.
Yeah, and I just figured that was one of the like Malcolm walking through, but that would make sense that it was her dad.
Oh no, because it's exactly verbatim what he says at the end when he's talking to the mom.
Okay. Yeah, it happened so like fast that I didn't pay any attention to it.
No,
and didn't peg it as a ghostly thing.
And then and she's watching Robert, and then the bell goes off. Yeah.
And she is walking through the house. She finds a drawing of a hanging, like a little someone playing like hangman or something. And that will come back into play later. I just thought maybe one of the kids were being rude and like drawing her as being.
Me too. Seriously.
Hanged. And I was like, oh God, that's violent. Freak her out. Yeah. But then she's walking through some of the rooms following some noises, and we see somebody sitting on one of the pews, the little benches on the like chair as she walks past, but as she turns back around, there's no one there.
Yeah.
And then this is where she's looking like in a mirror or something, or the window, and something moved behind her and starts setting off all of her bells. And she's running, chasing this being through the house, makes it to the housemaid's store, a little like office and room, and it's basically a dead end. She follows the footprints, like she did kind of like a Paranormal Activity thing with like the flower, and followed the footprints to this room. And then there was no one in there, but there was some like whispering and stuff coming from this little corridor, like vent situation, passageway.
Yeah, so do you think they were like going through the like a secret tunnel situation? Because she couldn't find them. She kind of just gave up. She was like, all right. Like, I know it was them, but yeah.
I think they were moving through, because we find out later that the house has a whole bunch of secret tunnels. So yeah, I think they were.
And one of those, that makes it like in a passageway, like what she was using, like her own, and that makes sense. And yeah, it's the next day, and the boys are getting called into some room, and they're making them put their feet up because she's spraying this chemical on the bottom of their soles, because whatever she put in the flour or any, like she had it set up to where.
At first though, she finds the giant dollhouse.
Oh, my bad.
The first one, she finds a giant dollhouse that looks like the
You're right. My bad.
It looks like the manor itself, kind of. And she finds 3, I think, throughout the whole movie. 3 or 4. Yeah.
And it like they're in different rooms.
Every time. This one is relatively empty as she's looking through it and not really finding anything. But then as she goes to close one of the doors, we get the twisted face little boy pops up over her shoulder, and it scares her. And then, yeah, she's like, what the fuck? And she then goes, and this is where she starts spraying their feet with, some sort of substance to, I guess, make it glow like purple if there was flour on their feet.
Identify the culprits. And she gets all the way to Victor, and Victor's feet turn purple.
Yeah. And then he's like, they told me to do it. Like, they told me I wouldn't be bullied anymore and stuff if I just did this. So like I had to do it. And then Malcolm comes in and starts basically turning the tides and putting the blame on the other little boy, and is about to beat the crap out of him with his little cane.
But Miss Florence stops him from going any further, and she kind of puts 2 and 2 together because she smells on Mr. Malcolm that he has like a balsam type of like aftershave or cologne, and she's like, you wear this balsam, whatever, and I also smelt it on, like, because
Walter's
we saw her
bear.
earlier.
Smell the bear, and I was like, why is she smelling the bear? And then now I was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. And she also smelled it on like some windows and some doorknobs or something like that, and then on something else.
Yeah.
And she was like, you saw Walter the night he died. You were with him. And he was like, basically, I guess he was trying to scare Walter, or like tried to scare him like straight, or like, make him a man, and scared him so much that he went into like an asthma attack
and died. Yeah. Yeah, so there was a perfectly reasonable explanation for poor Walter's death, and how the bear ended back up, how the eyeball ended up where Walter's body was, but then the bear ended up back in the bed and stuff like that. It was all, she was able to sniff it out. But literally.
Literally.
But then she's, oh, sorry.
What happened?
Oh, well, then I was going to just move along to she's in the woods and meets Mr. Judd with, and he's got a rifle. And I was like, she's playing it remarkably cool right now, because if I ran into a strange man in the woods with a rifle, I would be
Running.
shitting my pants. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's because she left church early, and he's like talking to her basically like, "Oh, you left church early," and then he's like, I see the way you look at me and the way you look at Robert, and just because he went to war and like fought for the war and whatever, and then he's basically talking bad about Robert, and she's like, "How dare you? Like, how can you insult him when you're a lesser man?" Because it's already been inferred that he had whatchamacallit, pretended to have like a gimp leg or something, so that way he wouldn't get shipped off to fight in battle with the rest of the men who got drafted.
Well, Robert Mallory said that he used to have a limp, and he used to do something else too, that
to try to pretend, at least.
And but now he walks perfectly fine and nothing is the matter. And I think he insults him more at the second time they meet in the woods with the rifle.
Oh, maybe. Oh, my bad.
You're right. My bad. But basically he does say it's not the living you got, or it's the living you got to watch out for, not the dead. And it's like, yeah, no shit, she's got to watch out from you. That's scary.
And is she at the lake already?
Yeah, she gets away from him, and thankfully, because I mean, I had bad vibes there, and I was like, something's going to happen between them in the future, and then it did. But yeah, she thankfully gets out of there without anything happening this time, and she is on the little dock. And she's getting out her cigarette case to smoke a cigarette whenever the rifle goes off, and it scares her, rightly so. After what I imagine was a like tense situation, like I would jump too. And she drops all of her cigarettes, and then as she's going to pick them up, the cigarette case falls in between the cracks of the dock and into the lake.
She's like, shit.
Yeah.
She then like kind of dips into the lake to try to reach with her hand to go after it, and then but then like something grabs her hand, freaks her, and startles her the fuck out.
A little hand pops up from the water, and I was like, "Oop!"
Yeah. But then immediately she's just like, she's freaking out so much that she's like, what did she say? She's like, "There's nothing."
Yeah, she was like, "There's nothing. That this isn't real." Like, there's nothing, and which is at this point, which I was like, this lady's seen a ghost before, and she's just in denial, like, no. But then she just falls into the water, like she just like slumps off of the dock into
the quickest like little like boop I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I know, it was so fast. I was like, what just happened? Because then I heard the splash of the water, and then the next thing we know, Robert has jumped in and is saving her, and is like pulling her up, and she keeps insisting like, "Oh, I just fell in," and I was like, "Bitch, you definitely rolled in." Like,
you tried to unalive yourself.
Yeah, and it was like, what is going on?
Pretty obvious.
It was, yeah. And then she's sitting by the fire, warming up with Miss Maud and Tom, who's sitting there, and her and Tom are having a little conversation, which Maud thinks is too adult for Tom, but he's like, I like to have adult conversations. And they're just talking about like her childhood.
It's striking a nerve with Miss Maud, and so she like tells Tom to go away, and then it's just her and Florence, and that's whenever I think it's about time to bathe again, right? She goes in for her bath, Miss Florence.
Yeah, and we get a reason for the scar on her shoulder. She says she was attacked by a lion when she was a baby, and that she was then called like white gold or something by the people who picked her up, and because she apparently lived in Africa as a kid.
That's right.
And got attacked by a lion. And yeah, then the people who picked her up called her white gold. And she was like, I don't know where my parents were and stuff. And, but yeah, so she was telling that story. And that's when Maud was like, no,
Girl,
let's
that's
not
a
talk
lie.
about this no more. Cause yeah, your whole life's a lie.
For
And
real.
we don't need to uncover that quite yet.
Which is really funny though, because like, what baby gets attacked by a lion and lives?
And lives. Yeah.
Literally. And so she takes her bath, and I'm like, why is this water so milky? Is it like
maybe she had some little oats or something she put in it?
In there? Yeah. And
Because
she
oats will make your water turn milky. And then the
does
oats
it?
themselves like kind of sink. Yeah.
And is it like soggy when you're sitting on it on your bum?
Yeah.
Do they like
Not
stick
really.
to you?
It takes a while because it's not like boiling hot water. It
Oh
takes a
yeah.
while for them to actually get mushy.
That's interesting. What do the oats do?
I think they're good for like soothing the skin. Oats are really good for like dry red skin and like moisturizing you and soothing dry, itchy, like flaky skin.
Ooh, leaves you all smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Miss Florence is trying to get, and then it's like such a kind of long scene of us just like camera up on top of her watching her in the water and not really doing anything. She's just kind of like having like a cathartic moment, I think. And
I
then
was worried because we watch her hand slip down a bit. I thought we were going to get like a masturbation scene.
Oh, I think it was heading there, to be honest. But then she realizes, and then she realizes and remembers about the peeping hole, and she gets out, and she like is kind of covering herself, but then she's like turns around and is like,
and
right?
just drops everything.
Yeah. And then Robert, she's like, I know you're there, Robert. Please don't go away. Please don't go away.
Yeah, and I was like, who's Robert?
Yeah.
I was so confused. But I also was just like, girl, like that's probably a little boy in there watching you. Like, do not expose yourself.
And so she gets all the way to the hole and looks through it, and it's no Mr. Mallory to be found, but we do get her little ghost child brother watching her. Yeah. And he's like, wow, gives us a little jump scare.
Twisty face pops up, very reminiscent of like The Ring.
Yep.
With their faces, how they all twist up and stuff in the pictures, remember? How they, every time they take a picture, their faces are like swirled. It kind of reminded me of that.
Almost like, yeah, very much so. It reminded me of something else, but then it like went whoop right into my head. But sorry. No, you're good. And it's all spooky right now, and she's freaked the fuck out. And like as she runs out, she finds another dollhouse, right? She goes into
she chases him up the stairs and into this little room with a dollhouse. And I loved how she was like running her ass off up the stairs, and we just see him walking up each stair. And I was like, oh, so Michael Myers. Like, he's like transporting himself up the stairs as he needs to. But yeah, she gets in there, and then she finds the second dollhouse, and this dollhouse has little miniatures in it.
Yeah, and spooky because they're of her.
Yep, and it's showing her in different scenes since her being there, like her looking through the peephole at Mr. Mallory, and
even his little scar.
Yeah, his scar was there too. Yeah, and it showed everything, like very detailed, and I was like, "Oh God!" And
it's very creepy.
Yeah, it was very unsettling, and and then she finally gets to the top room where she finds herself looking in the dollhouse. And in that moment, as she's like, it pans back a little bit, and we see that there's a felt figure behind her. So she turns around really fast and is like, but there's no one there. But then the door like slams or opens, right?
Yeah, it opens.
Yeah. And this is where, again, I was like, this bitch like knows about ghosts, and she's just like, she's so in denial.
Mm-hmm. She is, because at this point she is having all of these crazy things happening to her, but she's still trying to like disprove it in her mind, or like tell herself that it's not actually happening, even though she is genuinely terrified. She then, I believe, um, starts to go looking for something, right? Does she find the bunny? Is this where she finds the bunny?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because one of the temperature gauges goes off,
that's what
or
it is.
something like that. I think it was a temperature gauge, because she said one of these like areas is now significantly colder than
Mm-hmm.
than it was just like 5 seconds ago. And so she is looking for a secret passageway, 'cause she's like, there might be a like corridor or something. And sure enough, one of the little panels in the wall just opens up to this corridor, and she's now crawling through it. And then she finds this little rabbit baby doll
Mm-hmm.
that's dressed up, and she pulls it back out, and immediately on Tom's face, he is like, oh shit.
Yeah, when he sees it.
Yeah, and she is not recognizing it in this moment, but she is recognizing the nursery rhyme that is on it, because it was not audible. In my
No.
opinion, I couldn't tell at all what it is. And she was like, it's saying, ladybird, ladybird, fly away home. Your house is on fire. Your children are all gone except for one. And I was
Yeah,
like,
some
hey,
morbid children's.
yeah, some
Mm-hmm.
Grimm brothers tale.
Shit.
Yeah. Because I was
No,
like, your
yeah.
house is on fire. Why would you put that in a doll? Like,
And literally, and it was, the doll was like a human doll, but with a bunny head. Like, it was
yeah,
already kind of weird. I mean, right up your
because it
alley.
had, I
But
know, I was like, it looks like something that would be in my house.
but yeah, it definitely gave like a toy from like Sid's house from Toy Story.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom is so spooked by it. He's like, once he like runs away because he's so scared of it.
Yeah, because he
Uh,
thinks the ghost is after him.
mhm.
And he's like, yeah, he's very afraid. So she goes
Yeah,
and finds him.
and they have a little chit chat.
Yeah. And Tom was saying, like, I used to have make believe friends, or that he does have make believe friends. And then she gets like weirdly open with Tom in this moment, and is
Hmm.
like, I used to love someone, and he went off to the war, and I told him, like, no, like, I loved him, but then he went into the war, and I wrote him a letter saying, that I don't want to marry him, and that I didn't love him,
Yeah.
and then that he died shortly thereafter.
Hmm. She basically was trying to spare herself from getting hurt because she knew he could get hurt, and well, she proved right because he did.
Yeah.
And yeah, which also I'm like, do we think that that really happened? It happened, right? That happened in her adult
I
life.
feel like, yeah, I feel like it did.
Okay, and then
And that was
she,
the
yeah,
photo she brought with her to the seance thing,
hmm,
to
at the
maybe
beginning,
make it more believable. Or maybe it was just some random guy's photo. Who knows?
yeah. Or like I said, I think she maybe sometimes is trying so hard to like even disprove her own theories. That way she could be like, huh, maybe my lover is there somewhere and I'll see
Yeah.
him one day. But yeah, she ends up having that moment with him. And then we cut to her and Robert having a moment because she's like, I forget, she's like just standing and looking at something. And then he comes and touches her shoulder from behind.
Yeah. He like confronts her about
Mhm.
something. And
I think because he overheard, did he not?
yes, he did. Yeah. He came
Hmm.
up at the bottom of the stairs and overheard
Hmm.
them talking. So he's
Hmm.
confronting her about that whole situation. And then, yeah, he just puts her hand on her shoulder, and then she
Hmm.
kind of nuzzles his hand and like leans into it. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
Okay.
because
I was like, they share a tender moment, I guess.
they do. And then that's whenever they do that little thing, and then we cut to someone goes off on Tom. Um I think it's what's her face. It's Miss Florence.
Yes, yeah, because I think Mallory leaves, and then she sees a little boy running outside, and then hears a giggle, and then all of the like, they almost looked like wind barometer kind of things, but this like the arrow on the top of whatever it was, that ghost hunting thing, all of them started pointing like directly at her.
Yeah.
And this was kind of one of the first moments where I was like, is she dead? And but
she set herself up.
And then she is hearing the like marbles going down the stairs, and she starts blaming Tom for it, and she starts like losing her mind on Tom whenever she sees a man behind her.
And then Maud kind of like intervenes and is just like, I don't recognize you right now, like you're not yourself, like basically I guess getting onto her for yelling at Tom, because she was like, he's innocent, like he ain't doing nothing, like he's been with me, or he's been over here the whole time. And then we get to Robert and Florence having a moment.
Yeah, because they're because as she was like tripping back over her own wires and bells, because she saw a man shooting at her, a man in a suit shooting at her, and so because those tripwires like triggered the cameras to go off, I think. And so she was like, we need to develop this film to see the man who is pointing a gun at me, so that way we can capture the guy. And so they're developing the film, and he's not there. The man holding the gun was not there at all. But in the last photograph that she develops, there's a little boy in the photograph in the corner, but no man. And then out of low-key nowhere, they just
they start to fuck.
And then then they do it, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
I was so confused. I was here for it, like I like them together, but I felt like there was not enough like romantic buildup for them to just like start like
going at it.
Yeah.
I guess she definitely had built up the like, she was kind of lusting for him a bit, because like obviously that whole shower scene, whatever, dating scene, but
I guess he just went along with it.
Yeah, because there wasn't much from on his side. So there wasn't like, it's not like they were flirting heavily the whole time, or like, putting moves on each other. It just, it kind of came out of nowhere. And then that's whenever, I think after they're doing it and they're just having their like bed pillow talk, they start to hear the bells ring again.
Yeah, and this time it's not one of her bells, it's one of the household bells that you can ring from your room, like if you're sick and you need something brought up to you, and they know which room it came from, and it says it's coming from the east room, which it ends up being Mallory's room, Robert's room. And so he goes up to the room whenever he sees that it's his room, like pinging, and he's like, well, that's fucking weird, and goes up there. And while he goes up there,
Maud is talking to Tom, right? And is telling him to stay in the room.
Yeah, because Maud's going to check. And she's like, you would just stay in this room. And then we also got like a little flash of Judd still out in the woods with a gun. And but then we're back with Florence, and she is sitting there laying down still and just kind of like happy with the moment that just happened. and is like looking longingly at the like spot where Robert was just laying. And then all of a sudden this face is like, wah,
on the
out of
pillow.
the pillow.
And
And
she loses her mind quite fast because she just starts ripping it up to
she
shreds.
destroys it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does she find in it?
She finds her little cigarette case holder that she lost earlier in the film in the water. And so she's like, what the fuck? And she freaks out, as one would, I guess.
Yeah,
and
I would be pretty shocked.
Yeah, because she's kind of getting like gaslit by ghosts in a way, like they're making her crazy.
Yeah.
And so she ends up running out of there because she leaves and she's going to look for. Is she looking for Robert or Tom? She's looking for someone outside at this point.
Yeah.
And then
Mallory
gets found.
locked in his own room.
That's right.
And
Tom is playing. No, you're good. Tom is playing with the ping pong ball now against the table.
Yes.
So like we get the scene of where like everybody's kind of doing something different. Robert's trapped. Miss Maud is looking for, I guess, Mr. Robert himself. Or no, she's looking for Florence. And then Florence is outside now. And then that's whenever she gets met by Mr. Judd outside. And he's like, I've seen a lot of things here through these windows, but never nothing like that. Basically implying that he watched her and Mr. Mallory's sex scene.
Yeah, because they were in a dark room because they were developing film, but as he laid her down, the like curtain got ripped from the thing and exposing, they did it right next to a window.
Yeah.
So Judd saw all of it. And then this is where he gets that whole discourse about him being like insulting Mr. Mallory and saying like, you know, he's no better of a man than me because he went to war. And then this is where Florence gets pretty pissed off. And she was like, how dare you say that about Mr. Mallory? Like he gave, you know, he could have given his life. And I think she was also a little triggered from, I believe, what was a true event for her with that previous lover.
Oh yeah, that's right. Her own lover going off and dying in battle. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, she's very much kind of like talking back to him, one, and then he doesn't like that. And not one bit, because he starts to go after her and he starts to attack her. Like,
yeah, he like smacks her in the face and like
bloodies
up her mouth. Yeah, hits her with the butt of the rifle, and then he is like trying to kill her / sexually assault her. And it was a gross scene because then he's like drooling all over her.
Yeah, and it lasted quite a while too. And it's unfortunate because she did try to fight and get away, and she kind of did, but then he caught up to her and very much overpowered her.
And was like, while she was unconscious, he was like groping her and like starting to unbutton her shirt and stuff. But thankfully, little boy, Tom, who we later figure out, pops up, twisted face boy, pops up and scares him. And it was like, ooh, thank goodness, just in time.
Yeah, because she's then able to get enough leeway to hit him with his own rifle. And then she kills him.
Yeah, by hitting him
with one blow.
Yeah, and I was like, damn. Whenever she was like, I think I killed him, I was like, oh, you did?
I thought you just like,
knocked him unconscious. Yeah.
Same.
But yeah, so this is where she runs back in to the house, gets Robert and Maud to come out. Robert's like, Maud, go draw a bath. Like, we need to get her situated. And Robert's like, I'm going to go handle this. And then this is where she was like, Robert, don't tell Tom. And he was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he is like, it's just us three here. And then you see all of our faces go, what?
Because she's like, what the fuck? Yeah, I love that. Her reaction was so kind of our reaction. And you kind of get like this little like she goes inside and she starts to hear like someone writing on like a chalkboard, and then it says the quote from the nursery rhyme where it's like all of her children were dead, all except one, or something like that.
Yeah, all the children are gone except one.
And we just hear someone calling Mousy.
Yeah, and then so she starts going through secret tunnels and finds another dollhouse. And instead of going to the bath like she was supposed to, but she finds the other dollhouse, is starting to look at it. I was really worried there was going to be a scene of, like, if she looked in it, that there would be a scene of her and Mallory fucking.
Oh my gosh,
like
no.
two little felt dolls like on each other.
No.
I was like, oh no, please don't tell me anyone else saw that.
Well, other than Judd.
Other than Judd, yeah. And which I wish he wouldn't have either, because that caused another set of issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then all of a sudden she like gets this feeling and hears noises behind her and looks around, and we see this little pale arm pop out. And then the little twisted face comes with it, and he's just walking, and then he passes behind some things, and then he comes out as Tom.
Yeah, and she immediately is just like, oh, you can control that? And he's like, sometimes I can and sometimes I can't. And is basically explaining to her that he wanted to tell her sooner, but I think Miss Maud told him that she needed to remember on her own or something like that. But he's basically telling her, like, you need to remember. And then so she starts to get like all these memories flooding back to her.
Yes. And he says, like, this is the only way we can be together again. And I was like, again? What the fuck do you mean? And he also said that he didn't mean to scare Walter that night. And I was like, oh, so he did have something to do with Walter. And it wasn't maybe just Malcolm. But yeah, and so he says this is the only way we can be together again. And he was like, you're starting to remember. And as she's starting to remember, we're getting flashes of scenes of her as a child in the house with Tom, with her family, and we get like pictures of like a dead woman and stuff. And this is where I was like, is she dead? I was like, has she been dead this whole time?
Like, not again.
Yeah, I was like, they got me again. I was really waiting for it, I guess. But she wasn't dead. But she then watches the scene of her mother's death unfold before her yet again. She's watching from the corner, from the closet, and she sees her dad shoot her mom in the stomach.
Sad. Yes. And she steps out of that closet and runs up like in between the gun and her mom, and she's like begging her dad to stop, and he's like, you can't save her, like, just get out of the way. And he ends up shooting the mom dead again, which of course sends her running away. And then he like is going through the house yelling that he knows her hiding spots and he's gonna find her. And so
he's calling her little mousy the whole time.
He's shooting through the house as well, through the walls. And she ends up going to this one spot where the doll is. Or she had the doll. No, the doll was just there. She's going to this one spot, and Tom is there, and he's hiding, and he's just like telling her to be quiet. So she like is trying her best to be quiet, and she holds the doll, but somehow, I don't even know how, somehow the string gets pulled on the doll, and you hear it start to say its little nursery rhyme. And the way his eyes just got so wide.
Yeah, he was like, he knew they fucked up. And he is just like, oh shit. And we just get not a video. We get to see the father outside of that little corridor, and he is pointing the gun, taking aim, and just shoots. And unfortunately, Tom's little body falls out of the closet, the cupboard, and she's left alive, but not without we find out that that scar on her shoulder was actually from the bullet, like ricocheting off and like coming through the cupboard. So like the wood chunks coming off like hit her and made her have that scar.
Not a lion. And the dad is like so appalled by what he's done, because he obviously loved Tom more, because he was a boy, I guess, that he shoots himself in the head.
Yep. And she watches and Suki,
she's just a baby.
She is. She's like not wanting to go down onto the ground. She was like clawing onto the chair with all of her might. And she was like, no, you can't put me down.
Take me now. That's cute.
She's just a little baby.
Yeah. So we see what happens, and basically all this shit that she blocked out of her memory. And so
she literally blocked her entire childhood. And then we're sitting with Maud and Tom and her at the like dinner table, and Maud, we find out she's still on the stairs, I guess.
Yeah,
and
they're on the
stairs. We find out that Maud is Tom's mother, and also she was like her wet nurse and stuff, and like raised her, and so basically her mother. And
what does wet nurse mean? Do you know? What is that like?
I think it means maybe she like nursed her.
That's what I was thinking. Like she actually nursed her. That's crazy. I mean, not crazy. I guess you do what you got to do, but also, how do you like milk a child that's not yours? How does your body know to?
I guess because she had Tom around the same time.
Yeah, that would make sense. But yeah, she's getting
her
all this
extra body probably just thought, man, this is a hungry baby.
Still eating. And
the milk.
She is explaining everything to Florence and how this was kind of basically the only way that they could get her in and remind her of her past, because she knew that she had blocked out all those horrible things, and just needed her to remember.
Yeah.
Because I guess she loved her so much and Tom missed her. And then she's in the kitchen, and that's when she's talking to Robert.
Yeah. And basically, and Maud is there, and she's like, you saw him. And then Robert steps out for some reason. I don't really remember why, but he steps out, and then Maud is like pouring them some sherry. And she is like, Florence is like, I remember somebody telling me that this will make them cross and sick. And Tom kind of smiles because he is the one who said that.
Yeah.
When earlier that Robert and Maud were sharing a glass of sherry. But then she pours it out for both of them. And they both start drinking it.
And they're talking, and Maud is just basically like, this was the only way that we could get you here and for you to stay here and be back with Tom. Because Maud knows best. And she's like, she's like, I'm leaving. What are you talking about? She's like, no, sweetie, no, you're not. She never says it, but then Florence looks at the bottle and of course realizes that she's been poisoned.
Yes. And I was oh shit, did she just poison them? And then I was like, oh my God, she poisoned both of them. And so Florence calls for Robert and says, Robert, get it here. I need something that will make me sick. And he runs to the medicine cabinet that it has to be the furthest medicine cabinet away on the face of the planet.
Yes.
Because
also has nothing in it.
Yeah, he was just running and running. And I was like, how far away is this fucking medicine cabinet? But he finally gets there, and then there's nothing in it. And so she's talking to Tom, and Tom, she's like, I can't stay here with you. Like, I'm happy knowing that, you know, you're here and stuff, but if I die now, my soul will not be happy.
Yeah.
And so she's like, please, you know, don't let me die. And so Tom goes and gets the medicine. She's like, this is where it is. And he goes and gets it, and she drinks it. And Robert comes back in just in time to like see her passed out on the ground.
And we don't know if she's dead or not, because even her talking to Tom, like in his little ghost form, he's like, "Are you dying?" And she's like, "I don't know." And so then we cut to it's the next day.
And she kept saying, like, at one point, sorry, she said, I just need to close my eyes for a little bit. And I was like, no, don't close your eyes.
Don't do that.
I was like, you're gonna die.
And so we're kind of left in the dark, because it's now all the kids are returning back from the break, and she's kind of walking through the halls, and it seems as though, like you said earlier, nobody is interacting with her. So I'm like, I guess she's dead. I don't know. And then she ends up,
and this is where we get the line that says, ladies' minds often can't cope with further education. And I was like, God damn
so
it.
dumb. Yeah. And then she ends up going outside and meeting up with Robert.
What an ignorant idea that. Yeah. And this is what also made me think she was dead, because he goes, are you there?
Or I can feel you there, basically. Yeah.
And I was like,
but then she grabbed a cigarette.
Yeah. And I was like, is she dead or not? And then I was like, because I feel like no one else is reacting to her. I don't really know.
I think it's left for us to kind of maybe be not so sure on that. I don't know.
Yeah. And but then she says the line, not seeing them is not the same as forgetting. So I guess that Tom and Maud's spirits hadn't been seen since, and she didn't.
They crossed on.
Yeah, now that they had each other, maybe they just crossed on and went out together. But yeah, so she was saying, like, it's not the same as forgetting them. Like, we definitely haven't forgot them. We just can't see them anymore. And then that's basically the end of the movie.
That's the movie. That's it. And we're awake.
That we have awoken.
Let's go and can we
go into her old life got awakened. That's what happened.
Yeah, she awakened herself, and remembered all her traumatic events in life. Fun thing to do. Let's unpack that. Do you have any? What are your fun facts? I want to
fun facts.
Yeah.
The painting of two women killing a man that is said to be the boy's favorite is titled Judith Beheading Holofernes, and was painted in 1612 by Italian artist Artemisia Gentileschi.
What a name.
Gentileschi. Yeah, I have no clue. I definitely didn't pronounce it right, so I apologize. The location used for the school, the mansion of Lyme Park in Cheshire, was also used as Mr. Darcy Estates, Pemberley, in the 1995 BBC series starring Colin Firth. I thought I recognized it from somewhere. Or then I was like, this must just be another, big ass building that just looks the same. But okay, that's cool.
The
1995 version is not my favorite. This was also a BBC movie. The Awakening was. So
was it? That makes sense.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like the house from X-Men. The Last Stand, or not X-Men, the First Class. Remember Charles Xavier's like house, the kind
mansion.
of like mansion thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
but anyways, big house.
The inside of the school used in the film is Marchmont House, and the outside is Manderson House, both on the outskirts of Duns in the Scottish borders. Well, that seems like too conflicting as compared to what they just told us.
Right?
In the last one. So who knows which one is real. Let's see. Oh, Isaac Hempstead Wright, who plays Tom, and Joseph Mall, Edward Judd, the groundskeeper, also star together in Game of Thrones as uncle and nephew. Mall portrayed Benjen Stark, brother of Ned Stark, while Wright portrays Bran Stark, Ned Stark's son. In addition, Ian Hanmore, Albert Flood, portrays Pyat Pree. I watched like season 3 of Game of Thrones and then gave up.
I've never seen it. Yeah. I've never seen one episode.
Well, if you see the first episode, you've seen a lot, because that's the one where a bunch of incest happens. Literally is in the first episode. And you're like, what the fuck? The music of the hymn, Be Still My Soul, the boys and the congregation are singing, is Finlandia by John Sibelius. Sibelius. Not syllabus. Syphilis. No. Sibelius. Do you want to read Jeff's booze before we get yours, or do you want to read, or do you want to give yours first?
Go ahead and do Jeff's first.
Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
Would you be okay reading it?
Yeah, I can read it. I have it pulled up.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I'm going to read it as if I am Jeff writing this. So Jeff says, all right, here we go. First off, I'm giving it a solid 5 booze. There's a reason I recommended it. It's my own personal sleeper hit. I found it a while back while scrolling for a random horror to watch. Gave it a go because I'm a fan of Rebecca Hall, and with Dominic West and Imelda Staunton lending their talent to the movie. I was pleasantly surprised to the point it has become my favorite of her movies. Night House is a very close second. Oh, she was in Night House.
She was in Night House, yeah. I saw that one too. I just thought about that.
I actually haven't seen Night House.
That was good.
Yeah, I felt like I heard mixed reviews of it whenever it came out, and so then I just didn't go see it. But anyways, Jeff goes on to say the movie did an excellent job with the atmosphere, and I really liked the camera work in the movie. Yeah, the camera work, I didn't have any qualms with it. I thought it was good. And it had that, like, it had a, like, filter on the film for the most part, making everything a little more dreary looking.
Yeah, kind of almost like a film noir type of vibe, or like a
or Twilight.
Twilight, The Grudge. No, not The Grudge. What was it? The Ring. The Ring. We watched The Ring.
Oh, yeah. The Ring was blue. Yeah. He says, tension was built in an effective way with regards to the supernatural, and I really like how the story unfolded. Solid foreshadowing includes throughout the movie about what's really going on. True. Hall does an amazing job of using nonverbal acting to show us what the time at this school is doing to Florence. Though not the most frightening movie out there, I think the amount of fear and horror is perfect for the movie. It's a movie I'll always recommend watching at least twice to pay attention a second time through with the truth in mind. Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching it again knowing everything so I could pick up on the little clues. Yeah. He says, I've seen this movie over a dozen times and still enjoy every minute of it, and it still feels like I'm catching new things each watch through. I hope y'all enjoy this one. Bye for now, Baes.
Aw. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
5 booze.
Yeah.
I will probably give it a... I would give it a solid 4 boo rating. I think that Rebecca, I agree, she did a really good job of portraying like her emotions through her face and emoting and giving a good like characterization of this person who like is really set in their beliefs, and she's like a strong and independent woman, you know, but then totally gets like broken down to her rawest form towards the end of the movie, because she's basically getting challenged on everything that she believes in, which she has basically created as a protection mechanism to her horrible and traumatic past. Essentially, I guess maybe trying to like not deal with any of that. So basically creating this whole like belief system of like where there's nothing out there, there's nothing real. And she doesn't have to dwell on maybe the things that she subconsciously was holding on to. You know what I mean? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. But also the twist was really good. I literally they did a really good job of making Tom like fit in just enough to where you thought he was real. Like even when he's with other boys at certain times, like when he's close to Victor a few times, like it does seem as though even though they don't interact, like Victor can see him too, or like is at least aware of his like spatial presence. Like I don't know what that
Yeah.
you know. Mm-hmm. And I thought that they did a really good job of bringing the twist in and then explaining to us like basically through her perspective in the shoes of her as a little girl seeing all the things play out and what happened. I I wouldn't say the things that freaked me out the most were like the more like its creep factor, like whenever she was looking at the dollhouse and through the dollhouse and like it's basically portraying everything that's been happening in the movie. That was really scary.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That scene really fucked with me. I was like, oh, no, no. Especially with the
yeah.
little felt boy standing behind her and stuff.
Hmm.
I was like, ah.
I think that honestly, I even would have been okay if like the twist at the end was also too that she like stayed dead. Like I don't know. I think that would have been a cool ending. But maybe she is, maybe she isn't. Don't know. But I'd
Yeah.
give it four boos. Four boos.
Poor Booze. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'm probably sitting around there with you. Maybe like a 4.2.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a very enjoyable movie to watch. It was an hour and 42 minutes, I think, was the runtime.
Yeah.
And I did have to watch this one with ads because I watched it on Tubi. So that like
Made
broke
it like
like
2 hours, probably
yeah,
two
it
hours.
did. And it like broke a lot of the tension. Like literally one of the times that it cut away to commercial was like right as they were going to have sex.
Oh
And so
no,
like they
yeah.
kissed and then he like laid her down and then I was like, and then it
Then
was
four
like,
minutes of commercials.
buy a
Mm-hmm.
cheesecake or something. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. So it was, yeah, really, really random commercial placements. But I thought it was still a really enjoyable film, even with it being, slightly longer. And I thought all the acting was fantastic. I thought they did a really good job of putting in, like you said, like having Tom blend in with everyone and um, making him seem like he really was part of it. And then at the end, potentially with her being dead, also blending in
Mm-hmm.
and like interacting enough, but like also just not enough to make you really understand what happened. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I still part of me like wants her to be like dead, but then I do think that he saved her.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, I think I'll sit around a 4.2 as well. I thought it was really well shot. I thought it was clever going at it from the idea of debunking everything
Mm-hmm.
and like not automatically believing and then it actually being real. I think that's pretty cool. I always like ghost shows and stuff that actually try, like, this is why I'm a fan of Ghost Hunters and not so much of Ghost Adventures, because Ghost Hunters really tried to debunk everything.
Yeah.
And Ghost Adventures is more like, he got
Sensationalized.
scratched. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
very sensationalized. And so it, I liked the idea of coming at it from a debunking standpoint. Because like if there is a logical explanation for it, cool. But sometimes like there are things, like I've had so many things happen that are just not explainable. So
supernatural.
Yeah. Also, I have a correction to make from last week whenever I said that the cemetery on the grounds, and my mom had nightmares of the children calling to her. My mom had a nightmare of an entity tossing her around the room, and it turned out that entity was my Uncle Dave. My mom and them were looking through pictures. I guess my Uncle Dave wasn't hanging in the hallway. That was just like my pawpaw and Gopo and everyone. But then they were looking through pictures in the attic, and one of them was the Uncle Dave. And my mom was like, that's the person who was tossing me around. And my dad was like, oh, he died here.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so that's a little update on Spooky Story. I'm finally getting all the facts right. It's just taken me 3 weeks. So
that's okay.
But, and yeah, his name was Uncle Dave, not Uncle Dick. So
Uncle Dave, we got it.
It's all making sense now. But yeah, so we've got a solid 5, a 4, and a 4.2. Maybe I'll make mine 4.25 to make math a little easier.
How does that make that easier?
I think it makes it a 4.5? 3.
Okay.
Because your 4 kind of brings it down. My 4.25 brings it up a little bit. And then the 5, yeah, maybe a 4.45.
A 4.45 sounds appropriate.
Yeah. I don't know,
man. I don't either. And that'll be our final word and rating on The Awakening.
The Awakening, a 4.45 from your BooBaes and Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff, for
thanks, Jeff.
it. Yeah, for allowing us to. I had seen it before, but I seen it a long time ago, and I think I fell asleep towards the end of it or something, or I don't know. Or maybe I watched it when I was drinking, so that's why I don't remember most of it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, solid movie, solid film. Once again, we're always getting taken care of by Rogue Media Network, and they are recording us right now, even though we are not in our lovely studio. But you can follow our show and all their other shows on roguemedianetwork.com.
That's right. And if you want to listen to us or any of those other shows, you can do so on a slew of podcasting platforms, but the biggest two would be
Spotify
and also Apple. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that is the only way we can get ahead in this world. And if you want to reach out to us, let us know your thoughts on The Awakening. If you want to let us know what movie you think we should cover next, then please reach out to us. We do have an exciting guest coming up here in a few weeks, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, we've got some fun holiday stuff planned for y'all.
Yes.
But reach out to us on our one social media platform, which is Instagram, and that is at
BOOBAES, because we're your BooBaes, not your BooBabes.
That's right. And yeah, just let us know what movies you want to cover, and stay tuned for exciting guests.
Because we have some things planned for y'all, and I can't believe that most of this year is already over. Anyways,
I know.
So that's
it's wild.
It has by way too fast, to be honest.
It has.
But until next time.
Until next time, you guys. Bye, baes.
Bye, baes.
BooBaes.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production. Are you a podcaster? Let's talk podcast hosting. Are you tired of your current podcast host? Need real support in a community that gets it? At Rogue Media Network, we offer top-tier podcast hosting services to help you thrive. From hosting and distribution to dedicated support, we've got you covered. Starting as low as $25 a month. Join our community of passionate podcasters today. Contact us at hello@roguemedianetwork.com.